Hillary's Head Revisited. Hillary Clinton's Brain, Such as It Is. By Mia T. The smartest woman in the world would relish the raucous give and take of American democracy, as Charles Kuralt once put it. Hillary Clinton, by contrast, subsists on cozy clintonoid interviews of the Colmes kind. In her new book, Political Fictions, Joan Didion indicts the fakery of access journalism practiced by vacant politicos like the Clintons, whom she sees as purveyors of fables of their own making, or worse, fables conceived by political strategists with designs on votes, not news.
Bill was kind of a wuss, you know.
Yeah.
He was kind of, you know, with her. I don't know whether
he got her to
thinks
talk, though.
I think, yeah, but he may be waiting thinking she's going to win so he can score some points there. I don't know.
Superdelegates I talk to tell me it's like, you know what, Obama's baggage doesn't seem any heavier than Clinton's baggage. The question is, she seems to have more baggage handlers, frankly, than he does.
She's got a whistle,
for the
too. She
first
blows
time.
like a referee. If somebody says Monica,
right,
it's offensive. If somebody says your husband was impeached, you can't dare say it. These are all been declared by the Clinton campaign out of bounds. You can't discuss these things, whereas you can talk about the Jeremiah Wright, you know, until the last dog dies. I don't know if the Clintons can keep getting away with this. It's kind of a rough treatment. You might even say a little fascistic treatment of the journalistic world.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thank you for watching us tonight. Hillary Clinton enters the no-spin zone. Now, here's what happened. Earlier this week, we got a call that Senator Clinton would be available in South Bend, Indiana this morning. So we flew out last night, and we spent about an hour with her in the a.m. Roll the tape. Senator, first of all, thank you for talking to us.
I'm happy to talk to you, Bill.
Are you really? So few people are.
Well, you know, I ended up thinking that, you know, I had to try to help you out here.
I need all the help I can get.
O'Reilly relies on the authority of Michael Scheuer, head of the CIA Bin Laden unit, when debating waterboarding, but fails to ask the critical question raised by Scheuer, which is this: why in the world would we put the Clintons, who were utter failures in protecting and defending against terrorism, which, by the way, is a president's only charge, back in the Oval Office?
Talk about what President Clinton had to say on Fox yesterday. He basically laid blame at the feet of the CIA and the FBI for not being able to certify or verify that Osama bin Laden was responsible for a number of different attacks. Does that ring true to you?
No, sir, I don't think so. The president seems to be able, the former president seems to be able to deny facts with impunity. Bin Laden is alive today because Mr. Clinton, Mr. Sandy Berger, and Mr. Richard Clark refused to kill him. That's the bottom line. And every time he says what he said to Chris Wallace on Fox, he defames the CIA especially, and the men and women who risked their lives to give his administration repeated chances to kill bin Laden.
I tried and I failed to get bin Laden, and I did everything I could.
Sanctuary cities are angering many Americans. San Francisco, Los Angeles, other cities. Won't cooperate with federal immigration law. You going to crack down on those sanctuary cities?
I'm going to try to get us to where we have a...
Are you going to crack down on the sanctuary cities?
No, I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I'm not, because the reason why a lot of those folks do it in New York, why do police officers turn a blind eye?
Because they want them to report crimes.
They want them to report crimes.
You have anarchy when you have a sergeant serving in Iraq, son, 18 years old in Los Angeles, shot dead by a criminal illegal alien that was let out of a L.A. jail.
Well, that's the problem.
Because they won't obey. They won't obey the federal law. Los Angeles.
If somebody is picked up, if somebody is in jail, it is perfectly appropriate. Just like states are trying to protect themselves, if they pick somebody up, if they've committed a crime in this country or elsewhere, they should be deported, no questions asked, or tried for the crime. I also believe that Senator Obama served on a board with Mr. Ayers for a period of time, the Woods Foundation, which was a paid directorship position. And if I'm not mistaken, that relationship with Mr. Ayers on this board continued after 9/11 and after his reported comments, which were deeply hurtful to people in New York. And I would hope to every American, because they were published on 9/11, and he said that he was just sorry they hadn't done more. And what they did was set bombs. And in some instances, people died.
I'm going to have to respond to this just really quickly, but by Senator Clinton's own vetting standards, I don't think she would make it, since President Clinton pardoned or commuted the sentences of 2 members of the Weather Underground, which I think is a slightly more significant act than me serving on a board with somebody for actions that he did 40 years ago.
The FBI shot this hidden video of 2 Puerto Rican nationalists making bombs in a Chicago safe house 16 years ago. And now that grainy footage has become ammunition in a battle between the White House and Congress over the president's grant of clemency to these 2 and 9 other Puerto Rican nationalists.
And what they did was set bombs, and in some instances, people died.
Nobody dreamt that this was a daytime bombing of a restaurant in New York City in the United States of America, because it simply was not the sort of thing that happened in America.
The senseless bombing had been perpetrated by what was arguably the most active terrorist organization in U.S. history, the FALN. But in 1975, the FALN was a newly formed, previously unheard of organization that through deadly violence advocated complete independence for Puerto Rico.
6 people were killed in the FALN bombings over a period of several years, and more than 70 were injured. But the White House says the people who got clemency don't have blood on their hands.
In this case, they were convicted of very serious crimes. Not of maiming or killing, but of serious weapons offenses.
The 2 people in this video, Edwin Cortez and Alejandrina Torres, were convicted of conspiracy to make destructive devices and possession of explosives, among other things.
And what they did was set bombs, and in some instances, people died.
But the president apparently believes that the people who made bombs are different from those who set them off.
Because I did not believe they should be held in incarceration, in effect, by guilt by association.
Critics in Congress from both parties don't buy it, but clemency is a presidential prerogative, and Congress may not be able to stop it.
Hillary's biggest problem running for the Senate was that she wasn't a New Yorker. And how is she going to appeal to the specific ethnic groups that make up the New York State electorate? So, in September 1999, right in the middle of her Senate campaign, she was approached by City Councilman Jose Rivera, who really is a spokesman for the Hispanic community in New York, who gave her a packet urging the pardoning of the FALN terrorists. And included in the packet was a letter to Hillary asking her to use her influence on her husband to get these pardons granted. And 2 days later, they were.
Freedom came today for most of the 14 Puerto Ricans who accepted President Clinton's controversial gift of clemency. 11 of them, who describe themselves as nationalists, some others describe them as terrorists, were released from federal prisons around the country.
It made no sense. Not one of the incarcerated FALN terrorists had requested clemency or had expressed any remorse.
If they pick somebody up, if they've committed a crime in this country or elsewhere, they should be deported, no questions asked, or tried for the crime.
In fact, prior to that action, the Clinton administration had granted clemency in just 3 cases out of over 3,000 applications, according to the Office of the Pardon Attorney at the Justice Department.
It was putting a political agenda of the Clintons above my father's life.
And what they did was set bombs, and in some instances, people died.
Sandy Berger appeared on television a day or 2 after the pardons were granted, or after the clemency was granted, and stated that these people were not personally involved in violence. That's simply not the fact. In this case, these people were convicted of planting 36 bombs in Chicago. If that's nonviolence, then Mr. Berger's dictionary is a little bit different than mine is. The Department of Justice received a memo from the FBI saying that under no circumstances should these people be released. The President of the United States, who had access to all this information, ignored the facts of the matter.
And what they did was set bombs, and in some instances, people died.
You have to ask yourself, who benefited from this besides the terrorists themselves? It's my view that have concluded the only other person that could have benefited from this was Hillary Clinton.
The Senate, on a 95-2 vote, later denounced President Clinton's FALN clemency. Candidate Clinton claims she is the most experienced. Her husband claimed she was intimately involved in his administration, and yet Hillary said publicly she had, quote, no involvement in or prior knowledge of the decision.
Obviously, she knew about it, Obviously, she asked Bill to do the pardons, and obviously, when she says she knows nothing about it, she's not telling the truth.
Bin Laden is alive today because Mr. Clinton, Mr. Sandy Berger, and Mr. Richard Clarke refused to kill him. That's the bottom line.
Fool me twice. Shame on me. Hillary's commander-in-chief problem. It isn't that they can't see the solution. It is that they can't see the problem.